There's an old photograph tucked away in my memory box that still catches the light just so. It shows two young brothers, Arthur and Paul, standing shoulder to shoulder on their family's land. They look happy, innocent, unaware of the bitter seeds already being sown beneath their feet. Their father, a quiet but hard-working man, always dreamed of them sharing that fertile acreage. He made sure his will was crystal clear. The land, the very foundation of their family's future, would be split absolutely equally between his two sons. But my husband Arthur had a sharper eye for opportunity than his gentle brother. He also had a mother who actively encouraged his ambition, often whispering about Paul being too soft and unsuited for such a significant responsibility. 50 years ago, Paul hit a rough patch, a bad investment, some unexpected debts. Arthur, ever the opportunist, swooped in. He offered help, but in truth, he orchestrated a cruel takeover. Paul signed papers he barely understood under immense duress and emotional pressure. I saw the quiet devastation in Paul's eyes that day when he finally realized what had truly happened. He was too kind to fight, too broken by the betrayal from his own brother. I witnessed it all unfold, and the injustice settled on my heart like a heavy, cold stone. Arthur built a significant fortune on that land, turning every acre into gold, while Paul struggled through life, always just getting by. For 5 long decades, I watched my husband, and later my son, prosper directly from a lie I knew was rotten to its very core. My son David inherited Arthur's keen business mind and much of that ill-gotten wealth. He carried himself with an air of absolute entitlement, never once questioning the origins of his prosperity. He always looked down upon Paul's struggling children with a dismissive air. Then there was Ethan, my grandson, David's only son. He had his great-grandfather Arthur's superficial charm, but none of his calculated restraint. Ethan lived a fast life, taking foolish risks, burning through money with an easy, careless smile. One cold night, the phone rang late, shattering the quiet of my home. It was David, his voice tight and trembling with raw panic. Ethan, it turned out, had fallen deep into debt with some very dangerous people. He needed an enormous sum immediately, or his life was in grave danger. David was absolutely frantic, desperate to save his only child. The only way, he declared through choked sobs, was to sell off a large, valuable portion of that original family land, the very same land Arthur had so ruthlessly taken from Paul. A new lawyer, sharp, young, and meticulously thorough, was brought in for the high-stakes sale. He didn't just skim, he dug deep into the ancient deeds and half-century-old paperwork. He scrutinized every faded signature, every cryptic clause with intense focus. Then came the astonishing call from the lawyer. He'd found glaring irregularities in Paul's supposed transfer of his share, a coerced signature, a questionable witness, documents that were, in his expert opinion, legally unsound from the very beginning. I had kept Paul's old, brittle letters, filled with his quiet despair and hints of coercion. I knew precisely where the cracks in Arthur's grand story lay. I made sure those crucial details found their way to the diligent lawyer, a whisper of truth from the deep past. Suddenly, Paul's children, my nieces and nephews, had undeniable grounds for a powerful claim. Decades of silent injustice were finally laid bare for all to see. They weren't asking for pity, but for what had always been rightfully their father's. David was utterly humiliated. The much-needed sale of the land was immediately halted. A very significant portion of its value was legally awarded to Paul's long-suffering descendants. David had to face his own son, still deep in trouble, with far less financial rescue to offer than he'd so arrogantly boasted. The millions from that land, once so cruelly stolen, finally flowed to the rightful branch of our family tree. It wasn't the swift, dramatic justice I'd ever imagined, but it was justice all the same, a quiet, decades-long collection, made without a single word of anger from me. Arthur's greed had set in motion a devastating chain of consequences, stretching across 3 generations. My grandson's reckless trouble had merely been the catalyst, the spark that finally lit the fuse. The true cost of that 50-year lie had, at last, been paid in full. As I sit by my warm lamplight now, the house quiet and still around me, I feel a profound peace I haven't known in decades. The scales have finally balanced, not through my anger or intervention, but through the patient, relentless hand of quiet karma. After my grandson's debt unmasked my husband's 50-year lie, and I collected, what would you do first in that situation? Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Like if this was worth your time. Drop your thoughts and suggestions in the comments.